Hello fellow 3D enthusiast, my name is Ian, and today I wanted to share a story with you. 10 years ago, I was 13, and I decided that I wanted to learn Blender. Some guys on a forum of map making for the game BZ Flag had told me that Wings 3D was alright, but Blender is really powerful. And so I decided to get into Blender and figure out what all this business was about and how to use it. And it was pretty much the same experience as most people have. You're just kind of clicking around, not really sure what to do, moving the cube. I think I was probably to the point where I knew how to change the material, or at least the color of the material. And I just have this really distinct memory of going up to the corner of the panel here and clicking this little pin icon. And I could see some things were changing, but I had no idea what it was doing, and I was just really frustrated because there were so many options and I had no idea how to use this program. I remember the feeling of just kind of thinking, well, I guess I'll just start pressing buttons and see what they do, and that's how I'm going to learn Blender. Now thankfully, I think I was probably looking at some demo files and I came across one of Andrew Price's tutorials.
Underground subway scene tutorial, yeah!
And I remember that was the first tutorial that I watched, and I actually was figuring out stuff and just seeing how powerful Blender actually was. And those were my first steps to actually understanding how to use Blender. And now that's second nature to me to just look up tutorials when I don't understand something. But I do remember that was a massive breakthrough for me, figuring out I could learn from these video tutorials and get really cool results. But back to this pin icon, I distinctly remember thinking, someday I'll know what this does, and I'll know what all of these buttons do, and it'll be really amazing, because I'll know how to use Blender then. And now, I do know it. As of the recording of this, it's 2021, 10 years later, and a huge amount of things in Blender have changed, but if we look over in the corner here, we can still see this little pin icon. And so now, with some very strange feelings, I'd like to share with you what it's for. So this pin actually shows up in a lot of different areas, and one of the biggest areas where I think it could be useful, if we look in the shader editor here, and split the window, you can see the pin shows up again. And we've got two different shader editors. The whole idea here is, say we duplicate the cube, and let's move it over on the x-axis. We've got two different objects here. And if we hit the pin of one of these objects, and then select the other object, and let's say this new editor over here is how we're going to edit the material of this object. If we hit new, we've got a new material, and we can make it a different color. Let's just look at the rendered view. And what's going on here is we've got this cube selected, but this shader editor is still editing the material for this other cube. And what we can do here is we can work on two different shaders at the same time and see if they combine very well with each other. And all because of this pin being activated, we can actually do these two materials at the same time. If we unpin this, you can see it snaps to the selected object. If we pin it with the selected object and select this object, you can see this window changes to the material of the second object here. So that's what it's for. If we go up and use the original pin that I was getting really frustrated about, let's pin this here and select this object. We can grab this object and move it around to here. Maybe I want to edit something about this first object at the same time. Let's say we want to change the location of it a little bit. The properties over here are still affecting this object that we had selected when we pinned it. So that is my story of frustration and victory over the confusing interface of Blender. And if you were wondering, that's what this pin button does. Normally on this channel, I'm teaching about visual effects. Every once in a while, I'll slip in a tutorial of something that confuses me that I figured out, and I'd like to share with other people so that they can figure it out as well. But if you're interested in learning about visual effects in Blender, definitely hit the subscribe button. And in addition to that, I've created a completely free video for you that just goes over 5 different ways that you can help make your visual effects look better and improve the way that you integrate your CG objects into real-life footage. So if that sounds interesting to you, there's a link in the description. Definitely go ahead and check that out. But hey, I'd say we're done here. I hope you have an excellent day, and cheers!